vehicle isn't going anywhere.
Triple support in Marvel Rivals. It has been a serious part of the meta and borderline an epidemic for the last 2 seasons, and we've seen it in the past before. Now this is going to be more of a rant video, and there is a lot of negativity surrounding triple support. And to be honest, I share this sentiment for the most part, but triple support didn't come out of nowhere. There's a specific reason we're seeing it now more than ever, and believe it or not, there is actually certain applications where it is the viable choice, strictly speaking if you're trying to win. So in this video, I don't just want to focus on why it sucks, why it's monotonous to play against, obviously we'll talk about that, why we're in this predicament to begin with, what caused it. There's a lot of little factors that play into this. And then finally, the solution, how to fix it. How can we get away from this? Because whether we want to admit this to ourselves or not, part of the problem is us, the community and the player base that plays this game. Let's just start with the downsides of triple support and why it sucks. Obviously, because the game and match becomes monotonous and boring. It becomes a healer alt frenzy that makes the game just so unfun, uneventful, and slow moving. Nothing really dies, so whoever has more healer alts will win. And not only am I seeing this in competitive a lot, but even in quick play. I would say about 80 to 90% of the matches now, by the end of it, if one team's losing, they'll go triple support, and the other team will eventually have to do that to counter. Meaning by the end of the match, both teams have triple support. Sometimes even 4 supports. Still can't get a second tank though, I see. We don't really have to spend too much time on describing why it sucks. But why are we seeing triple support so much? Because there is a variety of reasons. One big reason and why people default to support is because whether people want to hear this or not, in terms of mechanical skill, support is one of, if not the easiest roles to play. But in terms of situational awareness, it's the hardest role to play, since healers often determine who wins the game. But mechanical skill-wise, it's an easy-to-play role, so a lot of people casual, or if they flex a few characters, have at least 1 or 2 healers that they're good with, that they can fall back to in a pinch. Another big reason is the DPS diff in the Switch because of their ego. This is actually a pretty common one. I get that all DPS players can't be painted under the same umbrella, but most of the toxicity in this game does come from the DPS, and now we're finally seeing support players dish it back a little bit. They're getting sassier, but it's not for no reason. Pretty much from Season 0 all the way to Season 2 or 2.5 whenever Ultron was released, characters like Hela, Hawkeye were dominant, but also there was a lot of heavy dive comps and characters. Spider-Man was pretty good, Black Panther, Magic, Cap, Venom, even Iron Fist before people figured out how to counter him properly. So playing support was miserable for a long time. It got so bad to the point where the developers themselves had to pretty much put out PSA in their patch notes to remind room temperature IQ DPS players to protect their supports. So eventually it led to them buffing supports to the point where they could almost 1v1 other characters themselves. Again, I don't like to paint all DPS players in the same umbrella because a lot of you are very skilled and know how to flex and play properly, but there are a lot of DPS players that honestly have no idea what they're doing. They have the mechanical skills, they don't use cover or health packs. The strategist's job is not to heal you 24/7. Overextending way too often, never peeling, off doing your own thing but then expect to get saved when it doesn't go your way. There's a million examples of this. And 80% of the time, if your match is being thrown, it's usually a DPS player. With that said though, there's obviously a lot more DPS characters to pick from, so you're gonna have a wider range of players in that role, which means you're gonna get a lot more bad apples in the bunch. That's just how it works when you have more numbers. But overall, the DPS ego is one of the bigger problems because when they're getting diffed, rather than flex more DPS characters, maybe fill as a second tank once in a while, they'll default to a support to try to then cushion their stats so they don't look as bad. Rather than just take the loss like a champ, try to improve your DPS so you don't get diffed the next time or flex better. I see this almost every other game. Another common reason you'll see a lot more triple support is because it's really good on defense. On defense, you don't have to get a ton of kills, you just have to slow the enemy team down. Make sure they're pushing the payload at such a slow rate, stalling them, running the clock out. Triple heals is phenomenal in this scenario, and in a lot of instances it does make sense to run this. We also have a massive shortage of tank players in this game. Like I already talked about this in a video that actually resonated with a lot of people, and I did read all your feedback and I will be doing a follow-up video to this, but people just don't know how to flex tank at all. It's the least common role people know. So everyone's comfort zone is to resort back to triple support. A couple other reasons as well that contributes to triple support is 1, a lot of supports get really cool skins, just giving more incentive for people to play those characters. And we do have a lot of DPS oriented supports as well, also incentivizing triple support, like Adam Warlock, Mantis, Ultron, and now Deadpool. You combined all these factors and you can see why triple support is stupidly common. It's a lot of little things that are adding up, but it doesn't stop there. Even people that are trying to master DPS, be the best DPS they can be, you're gonna have a lot of scrutiny, and anytime you have a bad match, it's gonna show. There's a lot of growing pains with mastering a DPS character, because fundamentally they are harder to use on a consistent basis and to stand out. You can easily have a mediocre game as a support, kind of blend in and no one's gonna really say anything. But if you're having a mediocre game as a DPS, you're gonna get flack, which often results people into just getting discouraged and then falling back to a support. I have a great example of this. We all know now we have new Lord icons that are animated, they move. I think they're called champion icons now. Unlocked at level 50 with a character, and I queued into a quick match. I was playing Mantis, and our team was dominating. We had a Namor, a Hela, we had 2 good tanks, we had a Gambit, I was Mantis. Like, our team was locked in, we were clearly the better team. The other team actually was pretty terrible. They had a Thor that kept feeding, like they couldn't get anything together, but they had one Spider-Man that was pretty damn good. But he had that animated Lord unlocked. But honestly, in a 6v1 basically, there was nothing they could do. It was on the Ultron convoy map. They ended up pushing it close to the first point, but they couldn't capture it. The entire game, my whole team was razzing and hard timing that Spider-Man, calling him out for having that super awesome Lord icon but can't do anything, trashing on him the whole time. In reality, that Spider-Man did everything possible to will the worst team you've ever seen to a victory. And yeah, it's all in good fun. You're razzing, you're having fun, talking shit, whatever. But this game is very toxic, and not everyone can revel in that environment. In a situation like this, most people will then just fall back to their support. Switch off the DPS they're trying to learn or play and go back to maybe their Jeff they're more comfortable with. And a lot of times when a DPS player does go support, this could also mean that they're trying to switch now. So it's on one of the support players to then take the DPS role, switch it up, see if that works. And a lot of the times, the 2 original supports won't switch then to DPS. So some of the responsibility does fall on the support players. Not everyone talks on the mic, like I said. Toxicity. If a DPS player is struggling and switches to support, that to me is telling me they want to give you a chance then to try DPS because they're struggling. Technically speaking, that is the right thing to do. So there is 2 ways you can look at this, and I've seen both sides. There's a ton of toxic DPS players, but there are DPS players that maybe don't talk on the mic or anything that are trying to just switch roles to see if something else works. Not everyone's going to jump at playing DPS sometimes though, especially if you're playing against a good team. Because if you have good opponents you're playing against, playing DPS is the hardest role to stand out in and try to diff them. And not everyone has the stomach or the balls to do that. Now, it makes no sense to talk about all this stuff if we don't provide solution. How can we actually move away from the triple support problem? Move away from this. It's never going to go away completely, but how can we mitigate it and slow it down? Think back to a lot of your quick matches in recent memory or even competitive, where each team started out in a 2-2-2 comp. The first team to start losing or losing momentum will often go to triple support to kill the momentum. Stall, stop, whatever. Then if the other team isn't successful at countering it, they'll go back to triple support as well. And it seems that most commonly that's how the game will finish up, with both teams resorting to triple support. But there are actually a lot of counters that people just don't use. The easiest and most obvious one is triple tank, but people are allergic to tank to the point where it's even a miracle to get a second tank. I'm a tank main, so yeah, got some frustrations, but I have yet to play a game where I lose with triple tank against triple support. I've never lost, not once. I'm not saying you can't lose, but if you have people that actually are competent at tank, it is very, very hard to beat triple tank with triple support because you don't output enough damage. And if the tanks are adequate or even decent, they will eat you alive. But again, nobody wants to play triple tank. It's impossible. And yet that could solve all our problems. If people did this for one whole season to counter the triple support problem, people might stop doing it. And I'm going to give you a brief example of this in one of my recent competitive games. Both teams started out in a 2-2-2 comp. The enemy Black Panther was cracked out of his mind, like he ran the lobby. I was playing Rogue, I couldn't even do anything because our healers were getting dove, I had to keep turning around. We couldn't track down or kill Black Panther, like it was a nightmare. Mind you, our comp wasn't the best. I then switched to Penny Parker to try to help, wasn't enough. This is domination, so we get absolutely destroyed the first round. This is usually the point where everyone starts to turn on each other, but we didn't do that. I was like, hey, I'm gonna lock in Scarlet Witch. My only job, I'm gonna watch the supports and counter Black Panther. If we stop him, we win. We had a decent Moon Knight, but we had a really good Magneto. So I'm like, Magneto, do your thing. Don't worry about the supports. You'll get healed. I'll make sure they're safe. Sure enough, the next round came. I know I'm not gonna get high kills, good stats, a lot of points if we win this, but who cares? It's teamwork. I counter Black Panther. We don't win by a lot. It's not graceful, but we come out with the second win in round 2, bringing us to round 3. Black Panther then realizes, well, we're obviously countering him, so he switches to Iron Fist. And he was a lot more difficult to deal with as Iron Fist. But the enemy team also came out with triple support in the third round. And they took the point for 50% right off the hop. And we're like, oh crap, like we're done. My whole team was getting frantic now, asking for triple support. Then I chimed in and said, look, we have a great Magneto. We also have a good Thing player. Moon Knight can stay the same, keep our healers the same, I'll switch off Scarlet Witch and go Emma Frost. My new job now is to kill Iron Fist. We'll have triple tanks against their triple support, and they only have one tank. We'll win this, I promise. It was so easy to win the rest of the game, it's not even funny. And that's all it took. Otherwise, we would have lost. And this is a common thing, that's why a lot of people are getting frustrated. Even if they're having a great game, the enemy team will go triple support and it's like, either we have to do it or we lose now, it's boring. But it's not the only option. Triple tank is an amazing option against triple support. People just have to learn tank more. It doesn't have to be your main primary role, but get really comfortable with at least one tank you can do this. Other options to counter triple support is a really good Moon Knight, because they can output enough damage and farm their ult enough to kill healers before they get their ult. Same with a Squirrel Girl on certain maps. People like to harp on Squirrel Girl because she's brain dead, but she can pump out a stupid amount of damage and hit the healers in the backlines with stray acorns that they can also be problematic for triple heals in the right hands. If you're comfortable enough with Hawkeye, he can also be an absolute menace and hard counter to triple heals because he can 1 or 2 tap people. He can take squishies out of the fight before the fight even starts. But he's a high skill ceiling character and you gotta have consistent aim to do this a whole match. Other options to counter triple support are actually using teamwork. I know, right? Crazy concept, especially solo queuing, but combo ulting, Groot Moon Knight combo, Groot Bucky combo, Angela, Star-Lord or Namor, Scarlet Witch with a strange portal for her ult. There's a lot of options. Those are just a few. But if you actually work with your team to combo ult and monitor the enemy's healer supports if they're triple heals, you can track their healer ults, bait them, and then team wipe them with teamwork. Those are just some solutions off the top of my head. I'm sure a lot of you can come up with some more. Overall, I guess it's unfortunate that resorting to triple heals is just the easiest way on so many levels to just counter in a lot of situations, especially against an entire lobby of 12 players that are all solo queuing, that all have insta-lock egos with no team coordination, and it's very easy to implement, because most people know how to play any old support. Anyone can hop on Rocket Raccoon or Cloak and Dagger and master that character within an hour. So locking triple support is an easy way to stump and counter just about anyone in a solo queue scenario. But in reality, it's actually super easy to counter, but unfortunately it's just not going to be countered unless people start working together, drop their egos, and find a way to make it happen. because I don't think nerfing all the supports over and over and over is going to be the solution. The reality of it is, supports are the most important role in the game. You can win a game without a tank, you can win a game without a DPS, but you cannot win a game without supports, unless you're playing in like a silver lobby as a Celestial. But that doesn't count. Being in a lobby where you have a vastly higher skill ceiling than everyone else is not the correct solution, obviously. This game has to be balanced with the notion that everyone is at the same skill level for the matchmaking. And in the proper scenario, you cannot win without supports, so supports are always going to be vital. Honestly, I wish there was no such thing as healer ults in this game. I wish every support player healed, but their ultimates were some kind of unique utility trick like Adam Warlock's or Jeff's. Or even how Rocket Raccoon's used to be with the amplifier before that wasn't enough. It needed to be a healer ult and a damage boost. If they didn't have healer ults in the game at all, I think the game would be a lot better. But I'm just one person, it's hard to say. You need healers, you need them to be adequately good and fun to use, or this game will be unplayable. But in order to get away from triple support, it is on us, the community, to actually play properly and counter it. People tend to forget that this is a game where you can switch characters mid-fight. This isn't meant to be a game where you just insta-lock, I don't know, Black Panther or Psylocke, and you can expect to play that character all game long with no one countering you. That's not how it works. Learn to counter triple support. It's so doable, and this problem won't necessarily go away, but it'll mitigate it quite a lot. Sometimes the enemy will use triple support to stall if they're on defense. This is a viable strategy. Learn to counter it. Sometimes your DPS that's struggling will go to support. If you're already an existing support, take their role then of DPS, switch it up. I think as a community and as a game, we just gotta get better at countering things, adjusting our gameplay, learning new characters, rather than just immediately getting triggered, complaining, trashing on one another. We could complain and complain, they'll nerf supports to the ground to the point where no one wants to play support. We've been in the kind of meta like that before, then no one's ever gonna get healed. Then we'll have a whole new problem, the game will be unplayable then too. Then they'll buff supports again, but maybe they'll buff the shit out of Dive again, so Black Panther's a menace again. We got Daredevil buffed again to help counter the triple support problem or support problem in general. Then people will complain about that. At the end of the day, as much as people like to trash on how unbalanced this game is and how imperfect it actually is a incredibly balanced game. Other than Black Widow, who still can be used in the right hands. Every single character is viable. All the team-ups have merit and uses, different variety of team comps. I've been playing video games for over 22 years. I know, I'm gonna be 32 this year. But I've been playing competitive games like Smash Bros, Mortal Kombat, Call of Duty, and many more where there were different metas and unbalanced characters. Out of all the games I've played over the years, Marvel Rivals is one of the few games that listens to the community, tries to improve and adjust characters, and it's way easier said than done because nobody's ever happy, no matter what. So it's all about finding balance, but we gotta do our part in learning how to counter these things, especially when they're not as problematic or broken as we make it sound. I really don't want to see them implement role queue into this game. I have a bad feeling they will eventually, but even as somebody that likes to complain as a tank main that there's never a secondary tank, I still would rather solo tank if it means everyone gets to play their best character if the chips are down. Although I will always love and appreciate somebody that wants to fill the role of tank so I don't have to do it alone, at the end of the day, if they're struggling and not very good at the role, I would rather them just insta-lock their best character, whoever that is, and we'll run with what we can. I like that about this game, and I think role queue would ruin that. I just worry if this community can't band together and just play the game, learn to counter the metas as they come and go, learn new characters, drop their ego, communicate more, then it's probably going to be implemented, and I don't think it's going to be a good thing. Those are my thoughts on triple heals, though. I don't think it's just a cut and dry, one and done answer. There's obviously a lot of little details that go into why triple heals is so common now, and what we can do to slow it down. By all means, though, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Guaranteed I've probably missed something that you can add. I look forward to reading that. Regardless of everything I've stated in the video, though, do me a favor and just make sure to have fun while you're playing this game. If it's stressing you out, you're getting frustrated, take a break. Take a deep breath, it is just a game to have fun. I am still working on my lore video for all the characters in Marvel Rivals, so stay tuned for that. It's probably going to be a bit of a longer video, so it might take me a little bit. Like and subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this, and as always, we will see you all in the next one. Later.